A couple months ago, Agrima Srivastava, a 29-year-old media professional from Lucknow, had a pretty uncomfortable conversation with her mother. It was actually about something that we all kind of avoid discussing with our parents at all costs.
And no, it wasn't about the birds and bees. It was a little late for that. Her mother wanted to know about her love life.
It was only very recently that my mother asked me what better half and what aisle is and everything, and then I told her, and then I told her I'm on these apps. So she liked the idea that I'm looking for people by my own self. At least she feels that I'm making some effort.
So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Isle and Better Half, these are two homegrown dating apps. But Agrima isn't on either of them. She actually prefers apps like Hinge and Bumble. You see, Desi dating apps just aren't really her style. But, funnily enough, the reason these apps are not her first choice are exactly the reason why her mother approves of them.
Okay, so with I, they actually look for it's like a matrimonial app or something, because they ask you when are you ready to settle down and what are you looking like, not what are you looking for. They believe that all of you are looking for serious dating relationship or stuff. It's like all they needed was a kundli match to make it a matrimonial app.
Ironically, it was on a matrimonial site that Agrima's mom actually came across ads for Better Half and Isle for the first time. So clearly, Agrima's mother is on a mission. Now that her daughter is close to hitting 30, which is above the marriageable age for women in India, like most Indian parents, she wants her daughter to find her lifelong partner.
But Agrima isn't exactly on the same page. Yes, she's looking for a serious long-term relationship, but for her, that doesn't necessarily mean marriage. She's more of a go with the flow and see where it takes you kind of person. So for her mother, apps like Isle, Better Half, or Quack Quack are the best bargaining chip. You see, these apps are made for an Indian audience. Unlike, say, Hinge, Tinder, or Bumble, which basically just copy pasted the Western dating model onto an Indian audience and hope for the best.
But here's the thing. The Indian dating experience is so layered and frankly so complicated that no matter which side you approach it from, whether it's your casual Hinge or Tinder type of approach, or from the exact opposite side, which is the traditional matrimonial websites, it's still like a Sisyphean task. Almost.
So, these dating apps are trying to crack the Indian dating market by positioning themselves right in between casual dating and marriage. It's sort of like the parent approved dating experience. And we call them
The daterimonial apps. Welcome to our fourth special episode of Daybreak Fridays. I'm Snigdha,
And I'm Rahel.
and once a week, Rahil and I come together to talk about things in business and tech that interest the both of us.
And it won't just be us. Depending on what we are talking about, we will also be bringing in a bunch of really interesting people on the podcast.
And in this week's episode, we will talk about how Desi dating apps are trying to do something that they believe the OG trifecta, Hinge, Tinder, and Bumble, cannot do, which is building apps that are specifically created for the Indian audience.
So, how are they trying to do it? And do Indian dating app users actually want apps like that? We spoke to Chandni Gaglani, the head of a really popular homegrown dating app called Isle. We also talked to 3 dating app users with very different experiences and expectations.
Stay tuned.
I started in 2014, and back then I think Tinder was the only one. It was before a lot of global apps had entered the country, right? So Isle has actually moved with how users are thinking about romance and love. And no matter how the attitudes have changed, something stays evergreen. That's the hope for romance and the way they're looking for love, right? So that stays constant.
That was Chandni Gaglani, and she heads Isle, a dating app. Like she said, Aisle was one of the first homegrown Indian dating apps to enter the scene. This was back in 2014, just 2 years after Tinder had launched in India.
And this was a really exciting time because, according to the last census, which was conducted in 2011, 85 million urban Indians were considered single. For dating apps, this was a market waiting to be tapped.
And over the years, a bunch of other dating apps entered the market. But Tinder, Hinge, and Bumble have consistently been the most popular. Thousands of people get on these apps on a daily basis. But the general consensus is that they don't really work for people looking for something more meaningful and long term.
And this is because of the perception people have about these apps. Like Tinder is just for hookups. On Bumble, there's a lot of ghosting happening. Raya, the A-list dating app, is too pretentious. There was even a rumor doing the rounds on TikTok in the US that Hinge keeps its most attractive users concealed behind a $50 subscription.
Meanwhile, in India, homegrown dating apps slowly started entering the picture, and ever since, they've been trying to redefine the Western notion of dating for the Indian audience.
When you get into user research, you start realizing there are multiple Indias within India, right? And there are multiple markets, and each region is behaving differently. Each culture has a different nuance, and you've got to really understand those before going after that market. So, very simple things that I did before it could get into this space is okay. So there are global apps, and it's a popular notion that a lot of it is addictive. Like when you're using a global app, it's designed to be really addictive. I'll actually stayed away from that philosophy because Isle has been positioned between, say, matrimony and casual dating, saying you will come to Isle only when you're looking for a long term relationship, something meaningful, or something serious. If that's the objective, then I don't want you to get addicted to my app. I don't want you to swipe right and swipe left just looking at images and focusing on vanity, because really when you're looking for a partner, you're going to be looking at the entire profile, every detail that you need. And it was in 2014 I'll probably had the longest and the most detailed profiles that there were in the landscape.
So we actually tried out 2 Desi dating apps to truly get a sense of what Chandni is talking about here. Here's what went down.
Demo time.
So just for context, Stigdha and I are sitting in the studio right now. It's 8:08 p.m. on a Wednesday, and we have downloaded 2 homegrown Desi dating apps, and
Yes.
we're going to walk you through our experience.
And this is the sacrifice that Rahil makes, for her
Yes,
job.
I apologize to my husband. It's for the job. But I have lied. I have said my name is Radha and my password is looking for love at 123.
Oh my god. Okay. So the first thing that they ask you is tell us about yourself. This particular app that I have downloaded. Name, email ID, date of birth, and male or female.
Even mine only has male or female.
Yes.
There's no other option.
Yeah. So better be a male or female, otherwise there's no place in
This app is
dating
not
app
for you.
world for you. Yeah. Okay.
Next, tell us about yourself, education, profession, drinking, smoking, eating, interests. This is kind of like Hinge, right?
Yeah, kind of. And now your mind says it's all about presentation. So it's asking me to upload at least 2 photos.
This Radha is quite a colorful personality, I must say. She's a non-vegetarian, interested in animals, smokes occasionally, drinks socially only. Profession, horticulturalist. I don't know. I mean, she can be whoever she wants to be.
Okay, of course. Okay, now, so after adding pictures, they're asking me for my height. Okay.
Okay.
Then it's asking me for my status, which is single, single with kids, divorced, divorced with kids, widowed, widowed with kids, separated, or separated with kids. Then it's asking me my faith.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Your community. Now, this is the interesting part. I prefer not to say. Agarwal, Agri, Ahom, Arikatika, Aurora, Arun Tatyar, Arya Samaj, Vaidya, Vaishya.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, Banya.
It's a long
These are all
list.
castes.
And
Right,
not something
mostly.
you would otherwise find on a dating app, right?
Exactly. Okay, so I'm also seeing some other options like there's Maharashtrian, there is Goan. So,
What?
yeah.
Okay, how do they decide what gets on the list?
So, mostly caste, clearly, but there's also region and language.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
So, we were wondering what kind of people are signing up on apps like Isle.
If you see the entire Aisle user experience, it's not even gone into having, say, additional likes or super likes or additional engagement levers, because we're saying, if we in fact we had something which was like invites. It wasn't even a comment. It was about saying we understand the kind of people who are coming. They were late millennials at the time, and they're looking for something very serious. A lot of users we speak to, they have an urgency as to, okay, I really need to find someone and settle down in the next 1 to 2 years. So there's a very clear goal when they're coming here. So we had a filter called, settle down in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Yes. So those features actually were literally mirrored by what users needed. And in today's time, in fact, we don't have that filter. We've moved it to settle down only, because now that there's a Gen Z, cohort coming in, it's becoming the primary cohort. It's turning
It's a
27.
very different kind of target audience, right? Like user base.
Absolutely. They're looking for, they've started redefining what a meaningful connection or relationship means to them. And, staying to tune to that and making sure that no matter who comes on the app, at the end of it, they're looking for a like-minded person. They're looking for a connection that is going to last, and they're looking for new experiences. How can we enable this for them? And the entire app has been designed just to make that happen for them.
So it's interesting that you draw that comparison between Gen Z and millennials,
Yeah.
right? What does a meaningful connection look like for, say, a Gen Z as compared to a millennial? What are the kind of variations there?
I think what Gen Zs are really trying to say indirectly is they're not under any pressure to really give a definition to the relationship they're building. They don't want to be attached to the outcome. This could go anywhere. And they're opening up that part of serendipity which had gone away with swipe rights and lefts. They're saying, let the magic happen, and we're here for that. And also, millennials, they're also moving towards independent decision making. They're saying, what, I'm in a marriageable age. A lot of things in my life stage is very different. So I'm actually looking to settle down. I'm looking for someone who sort of matches the kind of vision I have. But this person has to be suitable in my family. It has to be approved by my parents, and I want this to be a perfect fit.
That's so interesting because, like you said, you position yourself something between a something between
Casual
dating and casual dating and matrimonial.
Yeah.
So, and then you have these users, millennials and Gen Z. So, Gen Z is more focused towards the dating, and the millennials are more focused towards marriage.
I think
Right?
it's a function of the
Age.
life stage.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no saying that, okay, once they reach the similar bracket, maybe they will start showing similar behaviors. But they have grown in the digital age, right? So they look at this is also, if you see the hesitation with dating will be different amongst the cohorts and regions, of course. But, we did a user research. One of the insights that came out, there's an undercurrent. Like for a millennial, they grew up thinking about what romance is going to be, how they're going to find that person. And this was not a part of their plan. So this was never plan A. Right. And the Gen Zs actually grew up in an age where this is really normalized. So it's surprising for them if this is only the urban people we've spoken to. Of course, there might be bias in the respondents, but they would be surprised if you say, hey, do you find any hesitation, or do you want to like hide your profile or go in incognito? They go like, but everyone is on it. My peers are on it. So what?
So, what really struck me when Chani was pointing out the differences in how millennials and Gen Z approach dating apps, she said getting on a dating app was never a part of the plan for a millennial. And that really hit me hard because I'm a millennial too. But for Gen Z, they've grown up with it. It's normal for them. I don't think a lot of them feel the need to be secretive about it like a lot of millennials do. And as more and more millennials face the pressure of settling down from society, peers, family, they're suddenly hit with the realization that settling down with someone comes with a whole bunch of terms and conditions. And for an Indian millennial, the number one condition is parental approval.
So our NRI audience, the primary influencer is parents, right? Because they want someone. They think that this is the place where they probably will find someone which is long lasting. Then we spoke to users in the urban areas in India, and to our surprise, one of their inner circles of influence is siblings, saying, you know what, you don't want to look for just time pass, and I understand you want to get married. Why don't you try Isle? Because this is where all of that noise is tuned out. And then you have, so you're right, parents and siblings are becoming the new influencers, which we would have never imagined. And then you take a user's point of view and you ask them that, do your parents know you're on this app? Right. And it's changing, by the way. A few years ago, in fact 5 to 6 years ago, when people even got married through Isle, they would say, we do not want to reveal that we met on Isle. So they will not give the love story, but they will say thank you so much.
Yeah,
Right.
on these dating apps, like other dating apps also, like so many people, it's like the go-to response. I don't know what the prompt is, but they'll be like, if our parents ever asked, we met at some other place, basically,
Correct.
not a dating app.
Yes.
So cook up some story of meeting
Yes.
somewhere else.
Yes.
But that's changing now.
Yes, that's changing a lot and very quickly.
And the scenario was changing so much that IEL went ahead and launched a bunch of different region-specific apps. So they have Anbe for the Tamil community, Arike for Malayalis, Neeto for the Telugu community, and so on.
It's actually to the same tune of understanding India better, right? And this is our first step to do that, saying that there are specific communities which are very closely knitted. They have their own dynamic and their own world going on. And if they were really to look for a life partner, it is more often than not within their own community. And how do we enable that? We spoke to users, the young India within this community, which they're making their own decisions when it comes to career. They've moved on to making their own decisions for academics. But when it comes to a life partner, they're now questioning, why should we rely on our parents? We want to be able to find our own person without really breaking the societal norms or the constraints that are there. And that's when the idea of this came up, listening to our users really intently, that they are looking for this and they just want to do it the right way. And can we sort of give them a platform to do it? And every community, the deeper we went, the second part of this strategy was, the deeper you go, you realize that every community also behaves very differently from each other. How closely are they connected to their community? Why are they looking for people within the same community? How are the parents responding to it? Some communities are more progressive than the other. So, over time, we've realized that the communities have decided what this app is going to mean for them, rather than the other way around. The brand perception has created the brand image.
Have you found differences between user behavior on like the primary IEL app, the app that the OG IEL app, and these regional multilingual apps like Arike and Anbe? Are there differences in the user behavior that you're seeing?
IEL will always have an older demographic in general. It'll have like your late 20s to mid 30s, or even late 30s for that matter. And they're you speak to them, they hate people who waste their time on the app. They said, if people are not here for the correct intentions, why are they here? They will report them. So they're like, they're safeguarding the app in that way.
And correct intentions in this case would be long-term, possibly marriage. That is what the correct...
Or at least the intention you've chosen when you started off. So we don't have casual as an option, right? So it's long-term, what you're looking for, all of that. So if people have selected that, they want to see that that's at least true. And Arike, on the other hand, you'll see a younger audience coming in. It's more vibrant. They're taking it up. And there are two cohorts at play. There are late 20s and there are mid 20s. And the average is still a 30-year-old. And the NRI has picked up in a very big way for Arike, because now suddenly it's easier to meet your own kind across borders, across...
Otherwise it was your, like Seema Auntie. What is Seema Auntie for? Why did she exist, right? Yeah. Chani, I had a question related to the community option on dating apps. When users get the option to pick people from their own specific communities in a country like India, right? Isn't that a little bit like enabling the existing social divisions which we've been trying to fight forever? Because, as a society, we want to progress, right? And in an ideal world, It shouldn't matter, no?
The way we think about it is very similar, and that's why we've sort of kept it more in preferences and not in our default. Like especially when it comes to faith, etc. We don't try to match that as a default. We keep it open as preferences, and we give the choice and the control in the hand of the user. Saying that, and the good part is we're hoping that this trend changes. We see that people are now going for open to all versus within their own bubble itself.
Okay, so Chandni, this is a bit of a sidestep from our conversation so far, but we've been curious about your business model. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how does it really compare to, say, Hinge or Tinder?
Let me talk about these apps basis their business models, right? So if you look at it on an XY axis, and where in an X axis is just the engagement and Y axis is basically your intention. On the extreme left, you'll have your casual dating apps because these are the people who are high on engagement and they are following a user model, which is business model is based on engagement. You get more users, you get more engagement, then you monetize it, right? Versus a matrimonial business would probably be a revenue model. They start with saying, you take this package and then we will help you and handhold you through this, and that's you're paying to the start with. So they're two very different models. When Aisle is sitting in between, the question becomes, are you trying to compete with the user model or are you trying to compete with the revenue model? And the good part is if you do this right, you can get the best of both, right? Because you get users who are at the right stage with the right intention and they're going to pay when it really means something to them. And when they do pay and when it is a success, I think it's a long-term game. You should rely on the word of mouth. You should rely on the success. When a lot of people finally find their match, it's going to sort of spread the word that, okay, when I need to look for love, when I need to look for something meaningful, this is where I'm going to go.
Hi, I'm Akshay Chandrasekharan. Earlier this year, I wrote a newsletter on B school placements in India. Some of you might have heard of it. It was called Desi. It was one of the most challenging placement season in years. Well, things haven't gotten any better since. The news is still clogged with reports about the job crisis at top IITs. We are still talking fewer jobs and lower salaries. Landing a job is hard and keeping it harder. To be thrust into the world of work at a time like this without a moat or a map cannot be a pleasant experience. Every step you take right now matters. While we all know that great careers are built over decades, the first 2 years will set the stage for it. That's what I've been up to for the past few months. I made a podcast to help you navigate through this huge transition. If you're just starting out and having a lot of imposter syndrome, if you don't know how to ask for help, get the right kind of mentoring, then you must listen to my latest podcast, The First 2 Years. You will hear stories that cannot be summed up in a LinkedIn post. You will hear valuable lessons to get a head start in your career and so much more. Click on the link in the show notes or simply just type in The First 2 Years wherever you get your podcasts. And now, back to Snigdha and Rahel.
Rahil, why don't you check your phone? What about that app that you downloaded named after an animal sound?
It's not giving anything away. Oh, wow. Okay,
What?
Snigdha, I have 344 notifications on the app. Okay, I have 30 plus likes, 30 plus messages, and like it says 30 plus. I'm assuming that's like the limit that they have to display. But there are, it's crazy.
Did you say 300 and something?
Yes.
Notifications.
And this is for a profile where, I mean, there
This
isn't
is-
even a real photo. I literally used the first 2 photos on my gallery. So it's like a photo of the Bangalore skyline and like a random photo of food or something, like something I'd eaten.
This was just a
It
few
is
hours ago.
crazy. Yeah, it's been like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Can you check who are these people? I'm so curious. Please tell us.
Messages.
Hmm.
Oh wow, there's like literally just new ones coming in, like every
Oh my
It is crazy. Okay, so there's 63-year-old men, 29-year-old men, 30-year-old men. Hi Radha, myself Santosh. Like to know more about you. Hi, how are you? Hi. Someone who straight up gave me their phone number.
Oh,
This is crazy. Hi, hello, good evening. I'd like to chat and date. Wow.
this
What?
is just with a skyline photo.
Literally just a skyline
What
photo.
does this say about men? Oh my god.
So we found someone for whom daterimonial apps that allow the user to find a partner from a particular community makes perfect sense. Well, in theory at least. She is a 28-year-old Gurgaon-based marketing professional. She doesn't want to be named, so we are just going to call her Tanya. Also, a quick disclaimer, there was some construction going on near her home when we recorded this conversation with her, so apologies in advance.
So, I wouldn't say it's impossible to find a life partner. It is definitely possible. It's tough. We all know that. We all have had our experiences. But in terms of practical issues, I think some of the biggest ones are talking about caste, community, language preferences, education, and socioeconomic background. So, these are some things that you don't immediately get to know about a person right off the bat when you match with them on a dating app, but eventually once you start dating, if you are getting along, then you get to know. And we, as open as our parents are to meeting new people and maybe marrying outside our caste or community, there's still some sort of stigma about which community you marry into. So I think that you want to meet people from similar socioeconomic backgrounds, similar kind of education, because that filter doesn't sound very bad. Like you're saying, okay, I want to meet someone as educated as me. But at the same time, somewhere deep down in your mind, you're hoping that they're going to come from a similar caste or community as you because they've had similar education.
And is that also coming from a place of, like, again, you did mention, there is a certain amount of parental pressure, that perception does color your choice of who you're picking, right? So would it be fair to say that when you're swiping, like you're right swiping or left swiping someone on a dating app, at some subliminal level, is that something that you're thinking? Will my parents approve of this match? Will my family approve? Will society approve of this match? Is that something that occurs to you at all when you're on the
Yeah,
apps?
definitely. I mean, you always think about, is this person going to get along with my friend circle? Is this a person someone my parents would approve of? You don't want to have to put up a fight. It's already tough to find a partner on a dating app. You're going through so many struggles. And even after that, if you have to fight your family to be with this person, I don't know if that's something people are willing to do. So as much as possible, I definitely feel you're looking for someone who your family, friends, everyone would approve of.
Right. And then once you actually match with these people, Tanya, can you give me a sense of, if these are conversations that you actively have with the people that you're meeting through dating apps, does caste and community come up at all when you go on dates with them? Is that a conversation that happens often?
I wouldn't say it happens often. I think people try to be as discreet about it as possible. So they won't have very open conversations. But a lot of times when relationships or that dating phase is ending, I've seen these come up and be the reasons for those scenarios ending, right? So people try to gauge it very discreetly. They'll try to like go out with the person, talk about the family, things like that, and then try to see if they come from similar backgrounds. I don't think it's a very open discussion that people our age or people from more liberal backgrounds are having these days, especially when they're meeting someone through a dating app.
So basically, it does kind of all add up, right? I mean, for someone like Tanya to use a daterimonial app. Because think about what she just told us. Getting approval from her parents is very important for her, which means that she cares about what community her potential partner belongs to. But the constraint that she faces in a liberal society is the reluctance to openly admit this. She has to go on multiple dates and spend time with someone to get this information. She can't ask it openly on her first date. So, for her, an app that saves her from all of this trouble just by giving her the option to choose from a particular community makes sense.
But on the flip side, the problem with dating apps where you choose a partner based on any sort of community is that, in a way, you may end up stigmatizing other sorts of relationship. Where, say, someone chooses a partner who doesn't belong to their own community, which happens all the time in a country like ours.
To be politically correct and all, no, I can say that, oh, to each his own and all of that. But I think we have to be cautious. This kind of, in the long term, can have negative repercussions. At least that's what I believe in. And I'm speaking as somebody who has seen intercaste conflict. In my own household, because my mother is from a different caste and my dad's from a different caste.
That is Prashansa Gurung, a 36-year-old startup founder and filmmaker from Darjeeling, West Bengal, which, by the way, also happens to be my hometown. We spoke to her about her experience of using dating apps in a small town like Darjeeling, where everybody knows everybody. And the idea of community holds great importance. And Prashansa has been on these apps for the last 10 years or so. Like you're a veteran dating app user. So,
Yeah, yeah.
now, of course, your perspective has changed. Early 20s, like you said, is a different time, right? But now when you get onto a dating app, what would you say your expectation is? Like the end goal. What is your end goal?
My expectation with a dating app is just hook up. Okay, because I don't see dating apps as a viable option to meet somebody who you will want to spend your life with. Having said that, that situation applies only to me, I guess, because I have met people who have met on Tinder and are dating and are in a fulfilling long term relationships. But for me, it has always been a time pass.
So, would you ever want a life partner? Is that something like like I said, right? If an ideal dating app existed, uh, would it be nice if you
Mhm.
could find a life partner there?
Yeah, definitely. Especially I think as a queer person living in Darjeeling, it is very difficult to meet other women
Mm,
face to face. Yeah, it's like looking for a needle in
mm,
a haystack when we try to meet people face to face. There's a lot, since Darjeeling still is a bit conservative when it
mm,
comes to this, queer relationships at least. I think it would, yeah, like if I had, if the current dating apps were, I don't know, better than what they are, it would help me, yeah, find somebody. But right now, it is not looking like that.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, now, completely different side of this, like parental approval. Okay, you said it's you came out to them, but after that, whether they accept it, they approve it, is not you're not taking that upon
Yeah.
yourself. But tell me, like, as
Mm-hmm.
people who come from small towns, who live outside, the way we
Mm.
look for people who speak the same language, the way that makes us feel, right?
Yes.
So how important is community when it
Mm.
comes to dating?
Basically, all the lovers that I've
Hmm.
had, all my, like, lovers that I've had till now have all been
Hmm.
non-Nepalis. I have yet to date a person from my own
Hmm.
community. But having said that, right, the last relationship that I had, which was a long-term relationship, he was from a different community, and I think it made a difference, in our basic
Hmm.
outlook of life. Besides the
Hmm.
food,
Hmm.
besides the food, I would be sad if I don't get to have Nepali
Yeah,
dishes
see, that's the
for the
thing.
rest of my life, or if my, or if or if my spouse didn't,
Hmm.
know how to cook. Yeah,
Hmm.
or how to cook. I mean, like for example, like with my last partner, right? Like in their culture, the pork
Hmm.
wasn't too big, so whenever we made food at home, so I used to make something for him and I used to make pork for myself, but he used to scrunch up his nose
Hmm.
and pass some like comments, like, "Ooh, like how can he eat that sort of a thing." So again, like, but I think that is an
Hmm.
individual thing, but if you find a person who's going to the extent of, say, learning your language,
Hmm.
right, um like learning to cook for you, or watching movies in your language, or listening to songs of your language. I think true love, at least I want to believe that. I am a hopeful romantic after all. I think, when the right person comes along, such barriers will not matter. I think that's what I want to believe in.
And that is also what we want to believe in.
On that note, that's a wrap. Also, huge thanks to our main man Rajiv CN, our sound engineer, who we pester, nag, and annoy on a daily basis. This episode would not have been possible without his patience and hard work.
We love you, Rajiv. Also, do tell us what you thought of this episode on podcasts@theken.com. That is the-ken.com. Or if you're listening to us on Spotify, you can also drop a comment right there. And if you like this episode, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Catch you next week with another Daybreak Special.